lifestyle has caught fire, and we talk about the rewards and challenges of it. This is the Wandering Worker Podcast with Matt Lloyd.
Welcome to the Wandering Worker Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Lloyd. The Wandering Worker is powered by Magic Apple Technology, where we've been saving good businesses from bad phone systems since 2008. Whether you're tuning in from the comfort of your home office, a cafe, or exploring a new corner of the world, this podcast is your compass to navigate the ever-evolving landscape of remote work. We'll uncover invaluable insights, share personal stories, and connect with experts who have mastered the art of wandering while working. We have one of those experts on the show today, John Woerner. So before we get started, we just ask 5 quick random questions. Okay? First one, favorite city?
Boise, Idaho.
That's a first. Like Fargo, North Dakota.
If you haven't been to Boise, you don't understand.
I have been to Boise. It's actually quite beautiful with the river rolling through downtown. And
yes.
It's actually a beautiful place. What's your worst habit?
Worst habit. I start every answer to a question with the word so.
Okay.
I can't seem to get away from that.
At least you know you're doing it, though. That's the main
I do. And then I jump on myself halfway through an answer. I'll be like, so, oh, man. And then everybody stares at me. It's not great.
Pancakes or waffles?
Waffles.
Yeah.
But not your traditional waffles. It can't be the little ones with the holes in the middle. You got to go bubble waffles. Those are like, I don't know the right to describe them. They're essentially like little tear-off pieces of round waffle mix that rip apart. They're amazing. You should check out Bubble Waffles.
Okay, I have to check that out because that's a new one for me.
It's great because you're walking down the street eating a waffle, just pulling off one little teeny bubble at a time.
Is there a good place to get them around here?
There isn't. And I want to open a place that puts them in here because I had them in Hong Kong last week. They were life-changing for me.
Oh, it sounds really kind of cool.
It's great for like I think every fair should have a Bubble Waffle place. Like you can get your hot dogs over here, your funnel cakes over there.
Yeah.
We need a Bubble Waffle thing. So food trucks for Bubble Waffles is probably going to be a future business venture of mine.
You could do a Bubble Waffle / bubble tea type thing.
It's all Chinese.
Bubble
it's great.
bubble.
Double bubble
truck.
Double bubble truck. We got it.
You get, I'll sell it to you. Don't worry about it.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
What's the best piece of advice you ever received?
Wow. Best piece of advice I ever received.
I know.
You want to tell me the best piece of advice I ever received?
I'll chime in. Why not?
Yeah.
Let me pull the plastic off my mic here. It was that business owner that said, "I can't take anything that you're giving me as advice because you've never owned your business."
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I used to do a lot of business consulting in a Fortune 5 company I worked with for their internal customers, the businesses that work as subsidiaries to them. And I went into one that was very successful, but it needed to fix some things in its culture. And so I gave them some really strong counsel. And he said, "That's really good counsel, but it's really hard to take your word for it. Have you ever actually owned your own company? Do you understand the risk and the cost of the things you're telling me to do?" I was like, I haven't. Well, I can't hear you until you've shown me that you've actually done the things you're asking me to do. I'm like, but it'll work. He's like, it might. I can't risk it. And that's actually what led me down the path of entrepreneurship because it ate me so much over the next few months after that moment that I was able to just stop and say, you know what? I need to get out of this Fortune 5 company. I need to move into a space where I have the opportunity to run a company the way I'm preaching and see if it works. All of the methods and the processes that I've developed, are they actually effective? And it's what led me down the road of entrepreneurship. And now I own with Jim a company and it's doing great.
Yeah.
So it was worth it. Great answer, Jim. Thanks for answering my question.
Yeah, no
for
kidding.
me.
That's a great one.
I know you better than you know yourself. So.
Yeah. Here's another thought-provoking. What was the best compliment you've ever received?
Somebody called me skinny once.
From the last question that had this wonderful, somebody called me skinny once is what we get.
Best compliment I ever received. I'll tell you, it's when people tell me that they trust me. I appreciate it when I can speak into people's lives and to say, hey, I'm hearing you because I trust you.
Yeah.
I've worked with too many people and been around too many people that just don't garner trust. And I never want to be that person. So when I
Yeah.
hear people say, hey, even my business partner will tell me like, hey, I don't know what's going on, but I trust you to get it done right. So just keep moving. I love those kinds of feedback.
Yeah.
So that's probably more significant to me than that I was skinny once.
Yeah, if somebody says that they trust you, that also means that they value you.
Right.
And that feels good to be valued. You know what I mean? Last question. What's your favorite book? Let me stop and back it up. What's your favorite fiction book?
Ooh, well, that's a really hard one.
So I don't want you to throw just another E-Myth or whatever. Now, what's your favorite fictional book?
My favorite fictional book is clearly The Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
I happened to be in college only known as Frodo. My freshman year of college, there was 5 Johns in my English class because apparently that's a common name. Not sure why they would name people John, but it's fairly common. And so in the group, we had the guy from Louisiana. He started going by the Big Easy, a guy whose last name was Potts, so he went by Potts.
Yeah.
And we had just finished reading the Hobbit for my freshman English class in college, and so immediately they're like, "Okay, you're a Hobbit. You're clearly Bilbo." Well, great, that was wonderful. But about a week later, the first preview for Lord of the Rings came out, and Frodo became centerpiece, and suddenly the Bilbo transitioned to Frodo
disappeared. Yeah.
to the point where, and throughout all of college, the entire campus knew me as Frodo. My wife knew I liked her when I signed a message to her with the name John, because that was very
that was very
uncommon.
personal.
Yes.
Yeah, very personal.
And so I was Frodo, therefore that must be my favorite fiction series.
Very good. Very good. Well, that leads us right into the next thing, which is tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us what you do. Tell us about your business.
What do I do? Well, the business is a much easier answer than what I do. I am an entrepreneur, which means I wear whatever hat the business needs in the moment. Some days I'm a janitor. Some days I'm a counselor. Some days I'm a salesman. Some days I just sit here and stare at things because that's the best I can do for the business. However, the business is a lighting company. We are an LED lighting company, and I don't want to limit us to the concept of lighting because really we're an innovation company. We like to solve people's problems. And so somebody comes and says, hey, I like lights, but man, I need a light that does this, or I need technology that can do this for my business. And so what my role in the company and what the company does is really try to find either an existing product that meets those specific needs. And if it doesn't exist, we go out and we create that product, and we work with our manufacturers overseas and our design teams here in house, and we back and forth until the product's finally right for production, and then we move forward. And so 95% of the products that we've designed and developed were not our idea. Customers said, hey, I wish you could, or I wish it would. And we take that and we run with it, and we develop and design new products. Well, if one customer wants it, the likelihood is there's 10 or 15 or 100 other people that want that same product. And so we found a lot of success answering one customer's frustrations and then offering that product to the masses. And we've seen a lot of revenue and a lot of growth in our business, taking other people's ideas and just turning them into realities.
Yeah. What kind of, so you mentioned you guys do a lot of LED and a lot of lighting and stuff like that. So what kind of niches or businesses do you tend to go through, or verticals?
Well, we started in the LED journey with just taking people's non-LED lights and converting them to LEDs. And so those are called retrofits. And you take a building and it's got 100 metal halide, basketball court type lights up in the ceiling. And you're like, hey, they're burning 450 watts a piece. I can give you the same light output with 80 watts in an LED. Let's save you a ton of money on power. And that's kind of where we started. And that was using existing technologies and just maximizing the impact. And so that's always been a vertical of ours. It's always been a customer base of ours. And as we've done over the years of growth and design, we've always leaned on that staple business as kind of a supplemental. Our primary customer base right now is car washes. They like cool light shows.
Yeah, it's like a show. I mean, you go to a car wash now, you feel like you're going to like a little amusement park or something, So you've developed a lot with them and come up with a lot of that stuff?
Yeah. So when we first got in relationship doing some white lighting for a car wash, they brought me in and like, hey, I wish you could, or I wish we could have a fixture that does cool colors that isn't as expensive as what's out in the market, concert level, that's also waterproof and can handle the corrosive environments in a car wash. And so I went back and forth with my manufacturers, and we designed a single fixture. that was able to accommodate the corrosion issues, the output issues of being in bright spaces, and still give them a great show. And so we developed one, somebody in the room not to be named, my business partner, somehow released that video to the masses long before we were ready for full-scale production. And we got like 42 phone calls within a week saying, I want your product. And we're like, well, we've sold one car wash. We haven't tested it yet. We don't really know how long it's going to last, but they weren't interested in that. And so we went from 1 to 30 or 40 customers within 6 months in this space. And that's with one product. Well, I got to the 10th customer and they're like, hey, we love this product, but we wish you could also add to it something for the outside of the building.
Right.
And so we developed some exterior lighting products, and then people want things around the soffits of the building and other things for the interior. And so now we've got 9 or 10 different specific colored lighting solutions that are built for car washes that car washes all over the world use. Our products are now in about 500 car washes.
That's awesome.
Around the country in a couple of global locations. So we've done extremely well in that one vertical. And so that's been the primary breadwinner for our business. That's not really the future of what we want to be. We love that.
Yeah.
But we lock ourselves in the vertical, and we are now conditioned to respond to the vertical itself.
Sure.
And so if it has a good year, we have a good year. If everybody stops building new car washes and spending money, we don't have a company. And so we're looking for more verticals and places that we can be innovative with new products and new technologies that kind of, car washes are great. That white lighting that I was talking about is great. What can we do next to help other verticals that will be popular if either of them have a hard time with progression?
So is it, with the recession and the, whether we are in or out or in or whatever we are, have y'all noticed, is that hit the car wash industry? Is that slowed? I'm assuming it is.
Yeah. The recession doesn't scare anybody in the car wash industry. These guys have their money.
People are going to wash their cars. It doesn't matter. They're still going to wash cars, but are they building more car washes?
The investors are all business people who get into car washing. Very few car wash owners, especially of the larger chains, have any knowledge of car washing. It's not like you were a burger cook for your whole life and you start opening a burger restaurant. These are guys who were businessmen and investors and stock market guys and, old money guys. Yeah. And they're like, hey, there's a lot of money in car washes. We want to throw a bunch of money in. They are so much more savvy with economy and market patterns than most business owners.
Right.
Their big concern right now is the interest rates, because right now money isn't cheap.
Nope.
And so instead of building 20 car washes in 2023, they built 1 or 2 just to keep movement with their staff and teams, knowing that as interest rates begin to drop, we'll see an uptick in cheap money and therefore more buildings that they can get cheaper money and more buildings they can build. So we have seen a definite lull in the new construction part of the industry. The money's still there. It's just sitting on the sidelines waiting for, if I put $1 million in, can I build 5 car washes or 10? And that's really has everything to do with the interest rates and the monthly cost of interest in the marketplace. So we have seen a lull. We've still done extremely well because a couple of our customers have really wanted to take good care of us. And so we've done some major projects this year with them, and I have some more coming. It'd be great to see the interest rates come down and that market begin to pick up with the new products and the new builds. So
what are some other areas that you're hoping to get into? Because when it comes to LED lighting, Jim was showing me some of the stuff that you guys were working on with some of the more graphical display stuff and the arch and things. That's cool stuff. It's not just a car wash. Any business could use some of that stuff. I've seen, in my Facebook feed, they come like the cubes. Have you seen those? It's like it's a cube with the LED on each panel on each side, and it has the images. It's just like a little advertising cube that just goes on a wall or a ceiling or something. I was like, that's all just so cool. There's all kinds of opportunity for that kind of stuff now.
Yeah, and so if we want to grow our business, we have really 2 models. You have your entertainment lighting, and your entertainment lighting is lighting that is arbitrary based upon how people feel. I feel like buying some entertainment stuff. I'm going to buy some fun lighting for my house. I've got some free time. I've got some free money. As we've seen the culture tighten up, especially in the economy over the last year or so, a lot of that expendable entertainment money has reduced in the marketplace. People are now spending more time paying for lunch instead of buying cool cubes on Facebook. And so the inflation and the interest rates and all of that have moved us away from wanting to move forward in more entertainment spaces. Now, we've got a few other verticals that we're looking at. Our first foray into one is trampoline parks and amusement parks.
Yeah.
Next week, we'll be at a trade show in Florida for beginning to look at their spaces. They like cool entertainment lighting, and there's money there, and there's a lot of kids that want to jump and bounce and play and ride go-karts and play putt-putt.
Like I said, a rock show or something.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And so for us, we've already got fixtures that fit in those spaces because they're waterproof and they're pretty much damage proof. They're very durable fixtures. And so you can put them in higher intensity environments and do well. But even that is still conditioned upon how much people have money to spend in entertainment. So our newest product sets that we're really designing and developing are what I like to consider the duh factor products, the ones where no one's ever done it before. And we can go after a large consumer base, not a commercial base. And so if I can produce a product that you want in your house and Jim wants in his house and I want in my house that actually solves a problem that we all have, but we didn't know we had it until we saw the answer, that's the stuff we're developing. We've got 2 products currently. I can't give them away yet.
He mentioned something. I won't say what they are because I think they're really great ideas. And you're onto something with those for sure.
Yeah. We hopefully very soon will be launching some new products that are consumer driven. You'll be able to buy them directly as a consumer. And then my market opens up from 16,000 car washes or 30,000 trampoline and amusement parks to millions or even tens of millions of consumers that say, oh, I didn't know I needed that. I actually need that. It's not about entertainment. This is going to offer me a true life-changing experience. And so there's a couple of products that we are launching hopefully this year that will be as significant or more significant than all the lighting stuff we've launched so far.
So you guys are going to go direct to market by yourself instead of going through a third party or as a reseller to something else?
We're going to start with the experts in the field. And so if I produce a light that is for plumbers, just as an example, not that any of these are, then I'm going to go through plumbers first. I'm going to sell it to the plumber and let them sell it to the end user, get some feedback from them because this is a solution. Now, in that scenario, if somebody wants to do their own plumbing at home, and I have a light that fits it, then I want to go directly to the masses after that. And so several of these products we're launching fit well within the experts of their field, but they are also very viable for the consumers themselves. And so I think all of our product launches, we're going to do let's let the experts run with them for 2 or 3 months, make sure they're right, make sure they're happy, make sure there's no other major tweaks we've got to do to it. Then we take it from that. We come up with a lower grade. You have your expert grade that they continue to service. And then your like consumer grade, which doesn't do as much. It isn't as exciting, but it still fits the niche. And we'll launch that straight to the marketplace, direct marketing without any kind of middleman or salesman or anything.
Very cool. Very cool. So earlier you mentioned, the whole reason why you kind of got into this entrepreneurial journey was, you were giving advice and consulting people. So what are some of those things that you talked about that you gave advice to that now you've applied, and how did it stack up the way you thought it would?
Well, great question. I didn't come prepared for all these questions. I came in to sit down and talk to somebody, and now I've got to process them. The goal is to sound intelligent, right?
Supposedly, I've yet to be able to do that myself, so it's a goal.
Well, I really hope to be able to offer an intelligent answer to your questions. However, to answer your question, yes, some of the things that I taught when I was doing the business consulting have turned into great success for our company. Things that indicate that our turnover rate, since we opened as a business, is less than 5% of employees.
That's a yay.
Oh, I thought I was out of time. I thought this was like a political debate. All right, Phil, the gentleman from Connecticut, answer the next question, please. Yeah, I was like, did I go over time? What's going on here? Yes. So we've had less than 5% turnover since we opened as a business. And that's in total. That's not annual turnover. That's the total turnover of the business. We did lose 2 employees, and both of them came back. So you're doing really well. Yay! You're doing really well as a company when people take on what they consider to be the grass is greener opportunities, and they get there and say, hey, it was so much better where I came from. I want to come back to what I had before. And so those are the major kudos that say the way we run our business and the philosophies that I present work so well that even them going to major corporations for a step up wasn't really a step up in their life or their experience or their cultures that they were moving into. And so I would say I would hang my hat on, we have been very successful in implementing those things. Some of the higher level challenges that I thought were simple, like effective handling of accounts receivables and timelines and expectations of when customers pay their bills. I've had a lot to learn. I'm not as good at that as I preached before.
Yeah.
They'll all pay within 15 days. Not a problem. I clearly had some growth to do there. Obviously, one of the things you deal with as a consultant, as a business owner, you didn't deal with as a consultant, is the politics within your company of decisions. And so working alongside of my business partner and my top level employees versus independently of them as a consultant, you go in, you're like, hey, just do this and this and this and this. Everybody's got to buy in or they don't.
Yeah.
As a business owner, it's okay, I want to bring this to the table, but I have to make sure that my partner feels appreciated and has a purpose in this, that my top level employees feel like they've invested their ideas and we all buy in together and we go together. It kind of changes the way I handle quick decision making. I have to slow it all down and say, okay, we have some big decisions coming up. Here are my thoughts. 2 weeks later, it's okay. We're getting near those decision timelines. What are your thoughts? Let's get some back and forth. I still do what I want to do, but I make them feel really good about the process of me doing what I want to do. It's actually just slower.
So do you feel like in your decision-making process, are you one that's constantly evaluating and making shifts and changes, or do you make that decision and strive to that end goal?
You don't really know how effective a business change is going to be unless you can identify exactly what change you made.
Mm-hmm.
That it is independently a change that isn't in fact impacted by other factors.
Mm-hmm.
And that time, the component of time, isn't fully exhausted. And so I make a change and I make 7 changes at once. How do I know which one affected the business in a good or a bad way when there's lots of moving pieces? And so I wouldn't say that there's a rate of change, but I would say we make one change. And when I feel comfortable that it's the right direction, now I'm gonna have to shift, tweak the car driving just a hair, but we're going to go with that until I feel comfortable that I know the outcome of that. And I make no other changes to the company in that period of time. Well, sure, that slows us down maybe, but at least then I can identify this decision was a good decision or a bad decision. We revert to what we're doing before and we pick a different direction, or we keep running and now we add in another change that's going to help us move in that direction. And so I would have to say my strategy around changing is, anytime I make a change to the company or a decision about how we're going to do something going forward, it has everything to do with the counsel I've received, the things I've learned in my years of experience in consulting and watching large businesses. Mm-hmm. But that only works if I apply one at a time in a very consistent and clean way that I can see the outcome. I don't play the shotgun approach to business growth because who knows what actually worked. Sure, some companies get really big with shotgun approaches. Sure. They try 27 different things and one of them just keeps running and they don't know really what made it happen, but they love the success. I have to be a little more deliberate in my decision-making process.
Yeah, no, that makes total. I think a lot of people that run businesses, a lot of entrepreneurs and small business owners, that the how the business grows and how the business performs is a direct result of how the entrepreneur themselves makes decisions and how they plan and process things and how they, set a goal and achieve the goal. Jim's told me many times you're a very process-driven person. Do you have a method to your processes, or is it just, go crazy and get it done? But I mean, do you have a method to your madness?
Most people would say I do not. I tend to think I do. They just don't know my method to my madness.
Yeah.
I tend to feel like I'm Willy Wonka sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And if a kid falls in a chocolate pool and gets sucked up in a machine, I'm going to sit back and just...
That was your plan the whole time.
Wait and see, because they have something to learn about falling in the chocolate. In the same way, especially with my employee base, I want them to make decisions and bear the consequences, even if those decisions might be a short-term negative impact to the company. Because I have such a low turnover rate, this person's going to be with my company in 2 years or 5 years or 7 years. For me to start jumping in the way of their learning, I've slowed down the whole business growth. And so to answer your question more directly, I think I have a method to how I function because I've got good principles. I've got good principles about the core of what makes a business work. And one of the cores is it only works as well as the people that you put in positions of authority, learning and growing and improving in their leadership skills and their decision-making skills. Because I can't be the middle of everything and I don't want to be. There's a day in the future I'd love to be in Mexico enjoying, a margarita on the beach in Cancun, knowing that the company back home is growing and thriving without any participation. We don't get there ever as an entrepreneur if we have to be in the middle of every decision and every mistake.
You're
and so
100% right.
So for me, is there a method to my madness? Sure. I'm very cautious. I'm very stable. I never overreact. I've never yelled at an employee. I don't need to. The word I'm disappointed means a whole lot to them. We've developed a very supportive relationship with each other. And I have employees that have issues with each other, and they come in and they yell and scream about the other employee, and I just stare at them and I ask them if they're done. And then we talk about where they're wrong. Because I'm not there to fix the other employee with them in the room. It's how are you reacting and what are you letting this do to your workforce, your work performance. And so that's how I work. But otherwise, method in my madness, there's one specific thing I know I have to have personally as a business owner and business leader that my business partner often gets irritated with. I use the word irritated cautiously, Jim. I know you're not even in this interview, but you're in it now for a
He's
moment.
always in the interview.
He's always in the interview. I got a ding. Hey. Here's the thing. So I'm a father.
Uh-huh.
I'm a husband. I'm very involved in my church, and I'm a business owner. My days start at 6 a.m. and they end typically between midnight and 1 a.m. with conversations with my manufacturers overseas. So I have to be 100% dad. I have to be 100% husband. I have to be 100% business owner to be able to be successful. And so I get to work at 6:30 in the morning. I get to work and I work diligently. I get home from work and I have fully on. There isn't a downtime at home because if I were to work heavy and then leave my children and wife abandoned, I've not really done what I want to do in life. And then if I don't work with China and my overseas manufacturers, my business can't move forward. So as a result, one of the methods that I've put in place is self-care is something very sacred to my ability to perform consistently. For me, it's lunch. I eat out at lunch every day. Every Monday, I go to the same restaurant every Monday. Every Tuesday, I have my Tuesday restaurant. Every Wednesday, I have a Wednesday restaurant. It never changes every week. The reason why is I can get in my car and drive from here and not think. I can turn off the decision making. I can turn off the choices. I can turn off all of the things and I can go and I can sit and just process internally what's going on in my life, deal with things in prayer that I need to deal with things and just like sometimes I'll just watch a TV show during my lunch break. But for me, if I have to think about where I'm eating today and what am I going to order and look at the menu, when I get to the restaurant, the servers all know exactly what I'm ordering.
I was going to say, it's a repetitive thing you have to worry about. It's like Steve Jobs wearing all black and jeans. The wardrobe is done. It's a decision I have to make.
I don't have to make that decision. I make decisions from the minute I wake up to the minute I go to sleep. And so for me, an hour every day is dedicated to my ability to just be myself, fully with myself, and nothing else distracting me in life. And that's sacred to me. So my business partner is like, hey, you want to go to lunch today? I'm like, no. What? What? You don't like me? Like, do you not like me enough to go to lunch with me?
I don't think I've ever responded to that.
But I feel like he responds that way. This like sad, dejected puppy in the window, like, please choose me.
Really? Come on.
That's my own internal interpretation of what's going on here. And so for me,
you just don't see it when I go away and cry in the bathroom.
Yeah, that's right.
Because I'm at lunch.
It was planned that way.
It sure was. But for me, it really comes down to that is my time where I am myself. And if I lose that, then I run myself ragged. I exhaust myself, and I am not the leader, the husband, the father, the church goer that I need to be in life.
It's been proven. I mean, I've been an entrepreneur for 15 years. I'm around entrepreneurs all the time. Everybody has their thing that they do, whether it's, getting up early and having that time by themselves or going to Starbucks at a certain time of the day and just checking out. Everybody needs that time to just have. You got to be in the room with the one person that causes all the problems. That's usually you. So it's good to be in that room with that person and just kind of have a little conversation with yourself occasionally.
Yes.
Because I'm the exact same way. It's not lunch for me. It's just, I need that time away from making decisions. I need that break from having people call me. When we started our business, one of the goals, that's probably the only thing that I would say was super, super smart about when I was just getting in this and started in entrepreneurship, is I knew from the beginning that I don't want to work the rest of my life. I want to figure out how to get myself out of this as quickly as possible. And so that has been my goal from day one. It took me a long time to be able to do it, but now I feel like, hey, I don't have to be in there all day. Now my business partner's like, man, you're not really here that much. And I was like, well, you had the opportunity to do the same thing. So now he's working on pulling himself out of it as well.
Right.
And it is nice to be able to take that break and really let yourself think and process and get ready to get right back into it again. Because you can't be on the treadmill 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
And a lot of business owners try because they don't know how to do anything else. And, you know, if I were ever to sit with another business owner and try to encourage them, it's what are you doing for you on a daily basis? Not once a week, not once. I go get my massage on every third Tuesday. That doesn't do it.
Nope.
It doesn't. You've got to have a daily place for you just to separate yourself from all of the pressures. And if you sit down and you've got a high work level stress on your head, write it down and then push it to the side because it cannot overwhelm your self-care moments.
Yeah, I think the first lesson an entrepreneur needs to learn is you cannot outwork every problem. You have to eventually start to think about these things and listen to what's happening and figure out, all right, how do I really solve this? Not just outwork it, because you cannot outwork every problem. And so many entrepreneurs believe it's okay. Something happens, I'll just outwork it.
Right.
But that is a terrible path to walk down. That's a long, hard road.
When you're trying to outwork a problem, 6 more pop up.
Exactly.
Now you're playing whack-a-mole, and guess what? Whack-a-mole is very unfun for a business owner because they'll lose sight of 3 other problems when they get so focused on the one, and then those things explode. You have to just stop every day and say, okay, we're just going to take the next step. What's the next thing to do?
Right.
Not what's the biggest fire. Some days it is, but usually it's when I focus on a fire, I know fully well that I'm going to have 4 more pop up.
Sure.
I've got to stay outside of that and expect my employees to handle the fires.
Yeah.
You know, it is a failure of leadership if every problem ends up on my desk.
Absolutely. You got to delegate and elevate.
Right. My leaders know that their responsibility is to keep things off my desk, and only when they cannot accomplish the task does it touch my desk, because that represents their ability to have the authority and the responsibility to control the things I've tasked them with. And if I don't give them that authority, that's my fault. But if I'm going to give them that authority, it's their responsibility to resolve the issue. And so with my leaders in my company, only when they completely are unable to resolve an issue does it ever touch my desk. It totally alleviates a lot of the fire drills that I'm in the middle of.
Right. We had a lot of guests on the show, and we talked to them about, their businesses and all this stuff. And one thing that we've learned a lot of it comes down to 2 big things. It's culture and accountability. How do you address culture and accountability?
How do I address culture and accountability? Well, I will tell you this. Accountability is not an event. When you handle your accountability in a business as, oops, you messed up, let's have a conversation.
Right. It's got to be part of the culture, right?
It's just who we are.
Yeah.
And we hold ourselves accountable first. If I make a mistake, guess to the first person I hold accountable is it's me. And guess what I tell the staff? Hey, guys, I set you up for failures in this. This was my fault. We need to do better. Let's figure out what we can do to resolve these issues. I take the blame for that. In the same way, if an employee messes up, it's not I'm going to wait for them to mess up the 3rd time, and now we'll sit down and have a verbal conversation. I used to run in a Fortune 5 company, and everything was about, you wait for these number of infringements, then you have the verbal, and then you wait for this number, then you have your written, and then sometimes 6 months down the road, they're fired, and they're always surprised when they get fired. Because there wasn't an ongoing process. So the number one key for accountability is it's a daily conversation. It's not you're in trouble. It's, okay, what's going on? Okay, what's slowing us down? Cool. Now what do we need to do to take a step in the right direction? All right, you said this to that person. Tell me how you would felt if I had said that to you. Awesome. What are we going to say to this? We're going to leave here. We're going to say it right now. We're not going to say it like in your brain. We're going to go have that conversation. How do you say it correctly to them? Let's practice. All of these like coaching sessions where they have these, we're going to role play this experience. That should be just part of leadership. Everything should be about elevating your people and helping them to understand that accountability is good. And if I'm going to hold you accountable, I'm going to hold the person beside you accountable to the same standards. We live in a culture of accountability from that standard. So obviously for the first one, accountability, it cannot be an event. It has to be just what we do.
Sure.
You had another question.
Yeah. So
culture.
Yeah. What does culture mean to you? So what does that word mean to you? Because it means a lot of things to a lot of different people, honestly.
What does the word culture
in the framework of your business, right?
Yeah. I mean, I can go after a dictionary definition. When I was in a Fortune 5 company, and I keep referring back to that, but there was a lot of good learnings in that.
Sure.
We used to look at big data. And so we'd say, okay, your sales results have gone down 14%, and you've had this many customers call and cancel your services, and this many escalations to managers. And you know what? You had 32 employees quit last month. What does all this data mean? Well, we know the data doesn't change by focusing on the problems. You can't focus on how many customers called and complained or how many escalations. You have to fix something about people to fix the data. We take the concept of big data and we turn it to a cultural conversation. For me, it was always about what is the effect of the leadership and how do we determine that? Well, for me, a healthy culture is a culture when somebody wakes up in the morning, they're excited to come work at the job they're doing for the person they're working for. They wake up and they're ready to get to work because they know I'm going to do this job today and I'm doing it for that person. If those things are not there in the morning, when they wake up and they say, hey, I like my job, but man, I cannot stand my manager. Or, man, I hate my job. I like my manager. That is not a good culture because their home life is going to suffer because they wake up in the morning in that panic mode of, oh, crap, I have to go back again. I don't want to be there. And we never want our business to be a place where people wake up in the morning terrified or angry that they've got to come in and work. Sure. Some days I just want to be at home. I don't want to work, but it's not about the job. That's about my health or, my girlfriend or boyfriend, something's getting in the way.
All the external stuff.
But if it's about the job that they resent, we don't have a healthy culture. So for me, I think the biggest indicator is when people show up in our place, they come into my office, every one of them, they say hi to me, they smile, we talk a little bit of nothingness. We spend 10 or 15 minutes in the morning. They're on the clock. I don't care. Talking about their life, what they did last night, things that they're thinking about the job. And I do whatever I can to remove those obstacles. Like, man, I really want to get this done, but until he finishes this and they finish that, I can't do my job. You know what? Hey, I appreciate you saying that. We're going to step in. We're going to get them involved. Let's go ahead and remove these obstacles so you can get your job done. A culture is absolutely important, but it's hard to gauge what's an effective culture. For me, my standards are people excited to come to work, do the job they're supposed to do with the person they're supposed to do it for. If I can say that's healthy, then I think we've got a healthy culture.
Got you. So I think a lot of it, like what you were talking about with everybody kind of knowing their roles and all rowing in the same direction. How do you disseminate that information? Do you have a process that you guys use? Is there, like, for example, at Magic Apple, we're an EOS attraction shop. So there's a systematic.
It's a lot of letters.
It is, right? It's called the Entrepreneurial Operating System. It's just like a way of running your business. It kind of breaks stuff down into certain things. It helps me because I'm very process driven as well. But I don't like the creative side of process. I don't want to have to try to think, how can I deliver this information? I just want to know this is how it's all delivered and we're all in agreement. This is how we're going to do it. Do you guys, how do you guys disseminate information down to your team to where it's not, eventually not dependent on you having to disseminate it?
Right. So obviously that comes to lanes. Know your lane.
We had sandboxes. We used to call them sandboxes.
Right. It's the same concept. If I have a lane that I'm driving in, I want to know that it's safely my lane. There's not other cars coming into it. And I don't want to drift into other lanes. And so for me, it's all about effective prioritization and description of what each role's function and responsibilities are. Then whenever I say, hey, we just had a massive sale come through, I'm selling 42 of this kind of light fixture, I need them shipped over here. Everybody immediately knows what part of that conversation they're
responsible for.
And they don't have to ask me 37 questions about getting it done. I just say, hey, here's my sale. And they look at their little piece of that paper and they say, okay, I know my responsibility is getting it shipped from here to there. Oh, my responsibility is packaging it all up and make sure I've got enough in stock. Hey, we're down to 3 of those now. What do I do? All right. Well, my responsibility is to order more and to make sure that we've got enough in supply for the next time we get a big order like this. Once you have clear lanes for people to work in, a lot of the dissemination of information is only you're giving them exactly what they know to look for. And then it's just about consistency. Every time I have an order, do they see the same piece of information? If it's changed every time, then they've got to go figure out how to interpret that information. And so it's all about the structure of the internal processes that allows for consistency of information and then clarity on roles. So if I have somebody sick for a week and I say, hey, I need you to step up and take their job too, that is a clear description. What would their job entail? Well, their job entails doing inventory counts on a weekly basis and making sure we've got the products we need. Cool. So, and I'm going to add that to my job, but I know exactly what that means. And whenever they come back from sickness, I go back to my job and they have their lane completely clear and open. There's no stepping on toes or territorialism that plays a role.
Yeah, so there's a couple of books that I read a couple of years back or a few years back now. One was called Leadership and Self-Deception. Another one was called The Outward Mindset. And it was the idea of understanding not only your role, but the roles of those that your role affects. And those same things with the people that the work product that gets passed to you, what does that look like? So like we've had a lot of conversations at our business around handing off good work product. And a great example of that is sales to project management.
Right.
Sales work so hard to get this deal that they get it, and it's like,
yeah,
there you go. I'm going to eat that piece of paper. But you're like,
well done. Way to throw your prop.
I know, right? Where they, they have this thing, they get it, they finally get it, and they give this pile of crap to our project team, and they're like, what am I supposed to do with this?
Right.
It's like, guys, your job's not over until you have handed off good work product to the next person in the workflow chart.
Right.
Once they get that, it's their responsibility to take what you've given them, do their part, make it ready for the next handoff,
right,
and to have that continuously go down. But to do that, everybody's got to know that workflow, and they got to know exactly what's going on. So it's like you said, having your lane and knowing what your role is, but then having a good overall understanding of what everybody's doing there, right?
Right.
And what they're supposed to be doing. It's interesting to get that. We had a guy one time come in, and we thought we were doing a really good job with relaying information and description of what he's supposed to be doing. And it was funny. He was there for 6 months when and this was before we started doing traction and all that kind of stuff. We were just kind of shooting from the hip at stuff. And we brought him in, and he had been there for 6 months, and we had said, this is initially what all he was supposed to be doing, but we didn't have the accountability and stuff in place that we needed. So 6 months later, I bring him in, and I'm like, because things were just not going well. And he was a support guy. And I was like, tell me what it is you do every day. What's your job here? And he gave me a description that was nothing at all what he's supposed to be doing every day. And I looked over at my business partner, and I was like, there's our problem. These people don't know what the hell they're supposed to be doing because we're not telling them what they're supposed to be doing.
Right.
So then we were like, we got to redo everything and look at all this again, which is when we got into traction and all that. So it was something, we just laid it out, and we had we personally had a moment in our industry where we do phone systems. And at the time it was still, you'd sell a phone system to somebody, sell them the box. We'd come install the box on the wall, and they'd give us money, and we'd give high fives and call me if it breaks. And then we probably wouldn't see them again for a long time.
Right.
That model shifted literally overnight to everything's hosted and everything's a monthly recurring, which is good, but we weren't built for that. Our cash flow and expenses were built around, I'm going to say this box, you're going to give me $5,000 or $10,000. Now I'm getting $350 for it.
Right.
So we had a really a point where we had to let a couple of people go, and we used that opportunity to say, okay, we're gonna make the best of this really bad situation, and everybody that stays here has to promise they're going to be a part of this new program.
Right.
And that's how we were able to get that program launched.
The buy-in says your job depends on it.
Yes, it was kind of one of these
That's
things.
a great way to get buy-in.
It really worked, and we've been doing it ever since, and it's been a good thing for us. So let me ask this: so what's some advice you would give to another entrepreneur that's hearing this? What's some advice you would give to a new entrepreneur?
Man, that's a lot. One is people who are entrepreneurs lose sight very quickly that the life outside of work matters.
Mm-hmm.
It's very easy, especially in your first few years of running a business, to stop and say, you know what, if I don't get this business running, then I can't have the vacations I want or the time and the quality time with my family I want. So right now, the business is the only thing that matters. The problem is you end up 5 years older and no relationships outside of work, and nothing to hold you accountable, no place to grow. Maybe your family's falling apart. And so ultimately it's better to take 7 years to become successful and maintain healthy relationships along the way than it is to get successful in 5 years, but have lost everything. Because then why did you get successful? If you can't have a family and your wife has left you and you don't have any friends, all of these dreams you had about growing your own business don't even have a purpose anymore. And so for me, one is just really work diligently on trying to understand what the cost of focusing fully on your company is going to be, and then how to back away from that measure. And I'll tell you, I did it wrong for the first 2 years. And I was running a restaurant for a season, and restaurants are full-time jobs, wake up to bedtime. And I ran 3 of them at the same time, or 4 of them. And my wife eventually told me, hey, it's either me or the restaurant. And
that's a tough
I'm pretty
business,
much ready
man.
to get out of here. And so I had to exit that space because it wasn't right. Then I began to learn, you know what? I almost got successful in the restaurant industry, almost, but I wasted 3 years of my family to get there. My kids are now 3 years older. I don't even know them. And my wife is 3 years more hurt, and I don't even know her. I had to back up and go a different direction. So for all younger entrepreneurs, it would say, hey, focus on the reasons why you're running your own business, and make sure that they say centerpiece and your business never takes advantage of that. Another piece of advice, obviously, is get help. Look, you want to prove that you are the smartest person on earth and that your business is going to be the next Apple, and you really want to get there. The truth of the matter is there are people who have hurt all the hurts you're feeling, who have dealt with all the pains you're feeling before. And if you don't go ask them, how did you do it? You are going to learn the lessons they learned, and it's going to take you 10 years, and you're going to end up just as far as they are. Mm-hmm. But if you can stop and say, come help me think about this clearer and better, maybe you'll skip 7 of the 10 trials that you would have to walk through otherwise and be 5 years farther ahead because you're getting the success and the results from somebody who has just walked before you. And there is no ego in that, because ultimately the ego comes from when I can afford a nice car and a nice house and time away from work. That's where I begin to feel like I made it.
Yeah.
But you're either going to take 15 years or 5 years, depending on how much outside help. Well, it costs a lot of money to bring in an external consultant. It's going to cost me $100 an hour. Cool. But it might save you 5 years. What's that worth?
Yeah.
You get in there for 40 hours over the course of 3 months to work alongside of you. And guess what? They're going to save you 3 or 4 years. How many tens of thousands of dollars of extra costs and losses? It's worth the money. It's worth the effort. Go find a good, healthy person who's walked it before you. And even if they don't want money, offer to pay them. Value them for who they are. They'll value you for who you are. So
absolutely. That's great advice. I always say that sometimes the smartest guy in the room is the guy who's not talking about what he knows, but he understands what he doesn't know. Mm-hmm. And that's what he relies on other people for. And he can pick those people out. I think that's great advice. Hey, before we wrap up, I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to you, John, for being on today. It was an enjoyable conversation. Yeah. We didn't talk about remote work at all or wandering working at all, which is okay by me. We got down the business rabbit holes and I enjoyed it.
I can tell you all about wandering working. I built my whole company to operate from my iPad.
Well, that's an easy way to.
Every system that I bought into, I had to make sure it was iPad accessible. I don't even use a laptop. Yeah. My whole company I can access anywhere in the world simply through my iPad. All my reports, all of my data, all my sheets, everything, iPad is accessible. If you want to know how to do it.
Now I feel like we need to have another episode.
If you want to know how to do it, I can definitely help you create a company that requires 0 computers, 0 lockdown PCs, and you can do it from anywhere in the world, because that is how I function as a business.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. We probably need to have you back on to talk about that. That's great.
Teaser. Tune in next time.
Yeah, tune in the next same bat channel, same bat, whatever.
Right.
So where can listeners find you if they want to do
some lighting? What are you talking about?
Some lighting or
that's pretty
whatever.
Scary. Why would they want to find me?
What if they want to do business with you? How about
what's our email or
website? Oh, website. Oh, okay, thank you. See, I was like, my wife will be really resistant
Sales
to
and
people.
Marketing guy, please step up and say something now.
She doesn't want people knocking on our door. I'm sorry, guys. No, we are J Squared Systems, and we are jsquaredsystems.com. Jim and John make the J Squared. It was just a really fun way to create a name when names really don't matter in business. I've heard of a company named Magic Apple. Like, seriously, what a terrible, terrible name for a company, but it works.
That's an awesome name.
It is an awesome name. What are you talking about?
Great name. It's such a great name that Apple wouldn't let us trademark it. It's so good.
I'm sure they were really happy about that. But no, jsquaredsystems.com is our website. And obviously you can reach out to us through any of the questionnaires in there, but also you can probably comment on this podcast and we'll reach out to you.
Yes. More than likely that will definitely happen.
Leave a comment and share it, and then we'll call you. Otherwise, we will not talk to you.
But what's your Instagram handle, John?
Crickets.
I will say this about John. He's like the most reluctant, like publicly facing entrepreneur. Right. And it's so dang frustrating. Because
it's not fun.
You just experience like 100th of the onslaught that he's capable of. Uh-huh. And it's like the world needs to hear this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't really care.
Yeah.
Maybe when I'm 50.
Yeah, there you go.
Which is really close. I hate that. So,
yeah, I'm turning 50 next year. So it'll be it's going to be an interesting year for sure. Well, again, thank you for being on, man. I really appreciate it. You guys together in this. This was a lot of fun today. That's it for this episode of The Wandering Worker. We hope you enjoyed hearing from John today and Jim, J Squared. And make sure to mark your calendars for our next episode coming in next week. And be prepared to hang with us before we dive again into the world of the wandering worker. And I'm all over the place now. I'm all frustrated. I'd like to thank our sponsor, Magic Apple, as usual, for bringing this episode today. If you're not thrilled with your business phone system or your work from home experience, give us a shout. We've been helping people since 2008 with that. Again, I am Matt Lloyd, and we'll see you next time.